talk to me a little bit about how the mining industry is evolving, because a lot of the miners are now pivoting to AI, right? And selling their energy to AI. And this is going to be a huge ongoing issue in terms of just the need for infrastructure, the need for electricity. Can you speak to that?
I think the mining industry and AI are going to keep interacting in the way that you see. There's tons of merger and acquisition activity. There's so many contracts now of larger data center companies looking at miners for their capacity, but you're still going to have miners going to sources of energy that AI companies just frankly can't use. And so if anything, I see it as like a pressure release valve that might actually give miners a better opportunity that choose to stay pure play miners. Of course, it's nice to have the optionality if you're finding sites and you're already looking at ways that you can get these energy resources, to have some other way to potentially monetize it. And of course, the reason that many of these companies are doing it is because it's extremely lucrative. I mean, you can build and utilize the energy of a mining site for like $250,000 to $500,000 a megawatt, and easily get into the multiple millions of dollars per megawatt for even undeveloped energy. So there's a very real economic reason why mining companies are looking at AI as another way to monetize their resources. But again, if you're wanting to be a Bitcoin miner, I think that's an opportunity for you as well, because it means that everybody's looking over here and you can stay focused right here, don't get shiny object syndrome, and potentially have far better economics because everybody's taking their hash rate offline and pivoting to GPUs.
Is it just me, or has AI kind of helped soften the narrative of Bitcoin uses too much energy, because now AI uses too much energy, but everyone's okay with their chat GPT?
I would agree. I think when we first got into the industry, Bitcoin wasn't as out there, right? It wasn't as popular. It's grown in status over the years. And when they would hear that we were Bitcoin miners, it was immediately like, you're wasting energy, you're wasting water, because our sites are hydropower, and you just start to understand how little people are educated and how much they just don't know. They don't understand, right? And the woman who was like attacking us on socials for wasting water, I said, we don't use water, actually. The power in the water powers the electricity that we use, right? And so it was just kind of such a deep misunderstanding, which the energy industry is, even coming from a place of myself not really understanding the energy industry before I got into this and really educating myself on such a deep level. It was eye-opening to see how it all works, how the industry works in general, and how much misinformation is out there and miseducation of, wasting energy. And, if you know, like von Mayer's law, you cannot create nor destroy energy. You can only transform it, right? So there's energy that is being wasted, that nobody's even using.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's really, it can be a difficult industry to understand. So if you're not nerdy or into it, you just don't want to go down the rabbit hole. But once you understand what actually is happening with our energy system, and where all that wasted energy going, to find a company that it's almost like Bitcoin mining is cutting edge, right? Because they can go into places where other people can't, and use that stranded energy, which is not wasting it, it's actually preventing it from being wasted, and then monetize it. And so going into those intricate sites or places where nothing else can really be, like some of our sites are in the middle of a desert. Why? Because nothing else can really thrive there, but there's energy there that's stranded, and then we take that and monetize it. And it's the only industry that I know of that can do that.
Yeah, when I hear the critics, I think of that meme where it's that guy that says, I don't understand Bitcoin, but you're wrong about it, right? Well, speaking of sites, where do you guys mine? Is it only domestically? Do you see opportunities internationally as well? And it sounds like it's a lot of renewable sources.
We are 100% based in Oregon right now, focusing on the Pacific Northwest, partially because energy up there is great. It's a very high renewables mix. And we've also got the benefit of a really wonderful, stable, cool climate. And I think, there's so many things that people get wrong about the mining industry, but one of them is over optimizing just for how cheap your energy is. There's so much that goes, I mean, these are sensitive computers. And so the better environment you can put these things in, from climate, from a air cleanliness perspective, the longer they're going to last, the longer your investment lasts, the more it's likely to return over time. And then you also have these machines working not nearly as hard to keep themselves cool. And so you actually save quite a bit of energy. So it's this very holistic, I mean, I look at it like an optimization problem. And I just think that we found a really special place in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. We've got all of these factors coming together that make it a really great place to mine.
Another reason that we centralize our operations in the Pacific Northwest is because most of our team is from there, and we're also located there. And one of the things that I love about what our company does and is passion of mine that I bring to the company is that each one of our sites has a community impact. So one of my goals is to make sure that every single site we have has something that gives back to our local community.
Love that.
And because they're right in our backyard, it means even more to us, right? That it's our communities, it's the people around us. And so we have a greenhouse in Eugene that takes the wasted heat from the miners and grows food and grows fresh fruits and vegetables and produce. And we give that to the local food banks for those families in need. And then we have apprenticeship programs where we work with local high schools that teach them tech jobs and teach them financial literacy and what Bitcoin is, and then gives them a skill set or trains them in a skill set that will allow them to possibly do something different than their small town of 1,000 people that maybe the food service industry is what their life course looks like. And all of a sudden we come in with this new industry into their town, and instead of people hating us, which is very those bad actors in the industry are out there, and those stories about their sites and how their communities don't like them being there. We've really flipped the narrative in Oregon where they welcome us and we're part of the community, and we're making sure that they're taken care of. We're making sure they're educated, making sure they know what we do. And then even training them in like soldering or how to fix the ASICs, or, just skill sets that aren't really known and they don't know how to do. And they don't really know how to get out of the community that they're in, which is like their parents have been there, their parents' parents, and they don't really see this avenue for change in their life. And then all of a sudden we kind of give them hope. And we have people that work for us now that started out by, in the food service industry, just like, working at the grocery store. And now they're part of our site ops team, and they love it and they're thriving. And it's just like taking a chance on people and allowing them like this new opportunity for hope.
Yeah, and learning a new technology to revitalize the community. That's great. Before we wrap up, I did want to ask about another potential bottleneck, which is at the hardware level and the chips. Do you guys have any takes that you want to share? Because we're always hearing about chips today and NVIDIA and like where things are going. And is China going to make better chips than ours? And a lot of the hardware is made in China, right? So what can you share?
I think that we're starting to see a diversification of that supply chain. At least as of where we sit right now, there's not any sort of fear of shortage of the chips that we use for mining. That said, it's just like pool centralization. The hardware centralization has been something on people's minds. I think companies like Auradine and Block, who are based in the US and building their own supply chains over here, are a huge offset to that kind of central point of failure. But at least as of the current moment, I think that we're in a really good place. And, funny enough, the Bitcoin mining chip supply chain is such a tiny fraction of the GPU supply chain that like nobody really misses the fab space that we take up. And so I don't see it as a huge issue. We'll see what plays out over the next 12 months, though.